When you look at a plant, it seems pretty passive, right? But locked inside its cells is this incredibly dynamic, high-stakes communication network that's constantly fighting for survival. Today, we're going to zoom right into that microscopic engine room of the plant cell to uncover the super sophisticated alarm system that literally decides if it lives or dies. Let's dive in. Think about it for a second. A plant can't just run away from a drought, right? It can't escape a heat wave or hide from some pathogen. It has to stand its ground and fight back from the inside out. For a plant cell, these threats aren't some abstract problem. They are immediate molecular level crises that can shut down the whole operation. And the first thing to feel that pressure, it's power supply. So because plants are what scientists call sessile, basically they're fixed in one spot, they've had to evolve this incredibly sophisticated internal machinery just to adapt. This isn't about thinking, it's about pure, raw biochemical resilience. When a plant gets hit with a challenge, it has to retool its entire metabolism, like on the fly. And that whole process, it starts deep, deep inside its cells. And this brings us to the absolute star of our show today. We've all heard it in biology class, right? The mitochondrion is the powerhouse of the cell. But its job is so much more complex than that. It's not just an energy factory. It's a central hub for metabolism and, as we're about to see, it's a critical sensor and signaling post for the entire plant stress response. Okay, so let's zoom right into the cellular level and see how this all works. When environmental stress hits, say too much heat or not enough water, it often messes with the mitochondrion first. All of a sudden, the cell's energy supply is shaky, and its main metabolic factory is under threat. So the crucial question becomes, how does the rest of the cell even know its powerhouse is in trouble? Well, this tiny organelle is just absolutely essential. First off, it's the main hub for respiration. It's constantly churning out ATP, which is the universal energy currency for pretty much everything a cell does. It also provides the basic carbon skeletons needed to build other critical molecules. And this is super important. Even in a plant cell that does photosynthesis, the mitochondrion is a vital partner, making sure the whole system runs smoothly. And that is the million-dollar question that scientists have been trying to answer. See, the mitochondria doesn't just fail silently. It doesn't just sputter out and leave the cell in the dark. No, instead, it sends out an SOS, kicking off this powerful communication chain reaction. This SOS signal actually has a scientific name. It's called mitochondrial retrograde signaling. Now, retrograde just means flowing backward. Usually information flows from the nucleus, the command center, out to the organelles. But here, it's a distress signal flowing from the mitochondrion back to the nucleus. It's a direct line of communication. The actual state of the mitochondrion, whether it's running perfectly or is totally stressed out, directly tells the nucleus which genes to turn on and which to turn off. It's basically the cellular version of the engine room, sending an urgent all-hands-on-deck message to the captain on the bridge to change course now. We can break this whole process down into 3 pretty simple steps. First, some kind of stress causes a problem with the mitochondria, dysfunction. Second, in response, the struggling mitochondrion shoots out these specific molecular signals. And third, the nucleus gets these signals and launches a massive response, changing the expression of hundreds of genes to help the cell adapt and survive. Okay, so what are these signals? What does this message actually look like on a molecular level? And who are the messengers that carry it all the way from the powerhouse to the command center? This is where the research gets really, really cool. It turns out the signal isn't just one thing. It's more like a complex cocktail of information. Researchers have a few key suspects. It could be a burst of reactive oxygen species, or ROS. These molecules used to be seen as just damaging, but now we know they're also powerful signals. It could be a shift in the cell's energy balance, the ATP to ADP ratio, or maybe changes in the redox state of key molecules. Even little fluctuations in pH, calcium levels, or a buildup of metabolites from the central TCA cycle could be part of the message. And, as this quote from the research makes really clear, figuring out the exact initial trigger is still a huge focus for scientists. It's probably not just one single thing, but a change in the entire web of these factors that lets the cell know something's gone wrong. The mitochondria's whole physiological state is the message. So, if the initial signal is this sort of complex, messy state, how does that message get delivered in a clear, actionable way? Well, the cell uses specific molecular messengers, things called transcription factors, that get activated by the mitochondrial distress, and then carried instructions to the nucleus. Let's look at a perfect example. a protein called ANAC017. What's so clever about this system is where it lives. ANAC017 just hangs out, anchored to the membrane of the endoplasmic reticulum, or ER, which is often right next to the mitochondria. When those nearby mitochondria start signaling trouble, a special enzyme snips ANAC017 free. It then travels to the nucleus, where it switches on a whole bunch of defense and repair genes. It's just a beautifully elegant alarm system. So once that message is delivered, what happens next? The response is, well, it's profound. The nucleus doesn't just make a few minor tweaks. It triggers a fundamental rewiring of the cell's top priorities. It shifts from a peacetime mode of growth to a wartime mode of pure survival. This table really gives us a great before and after picture. Under normal, happy conditions, stress genes like AOX1A are kept way down, while genes for photosynthesis and growth are firing on all cylinders. But under mitochondrial stress, the script gets completely flipped. AOX1A expression skyrockets to provide a respiratory safety valve, while photosynthesis genes are shut down to save resources. The cell's priority just totally shifts from growing to defending and repairing. And I really want to emphasize this point. Retrograde signaling triggers a system-wide reprogramming. It's a huge deal. It doesn't just affect mitochondrial proteins. It changes genes related to chloroplasts, how proteins are made, and even the plant's response to pathogens. The mitochondrion, from its spot as the cell's energy hub, basically orchestrates a coordinated, cell-wide strategy to weather the storm. Okay, so let's zoom back out to the whole plant again. What does all of this microscopic drama actually achieve? Well, the payoff is nothing less than survival itself. At the end of the day, this incredibly intricate signaling network is what allows an organism that can't move to be unbelievably dynamic at the molecular level. It can't run, so it has to change. By sensing environmental stress in its mitochondria and reprogramming its own genome in response, the plant can adapt and survive against a constant barrage of threats. And this all leaves us with a really provocative final thought. As we get better and better at decoding this mitochondrial language of stress and survival, could we learn to speak it ourselves? If we can understand these pathways, it could open the door to engineering more resilient crops, plants that can switch on their own defense systems more efficiently to thrive in the face of all the environmental stresses of our changing world.